110 dead, 200 million Americans trapped, and a wind chill of negative 55 degrees. That is not a typo. And no, we are not talking about some remote corner of Alaska. We are talking about New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine this weekend. What just happened across this country over the last 2 weeks is something we have not seen in over 30 years. A monster blizzard stretching more than 2,000 miles from northern Mexico all the way up through the eastern United States into Canada. More than 30 states hit with dangerous weather warnings. 24 states declared emergencies. And the death toll, as of right now, has crossed 110 people across 16 states. And it is still climbing tonight. Now, in the next few minutes, I am going to break all of this down for you, piece by piece, city by city. What already happened, what is coming next, and exactly who needs to be paying attention right now. But first, here's what nobody else is really explaining. And honestly, this is the part that changes everything. The polar vortex is splitting apart, and what that means for the rest of February is a whole different ballgame. So let me take you back to where this all started, because this was not just one storm. This was a 1-2 punch. WinterStorm. Fern rolled through from January 23rd to the 27th, battering the South and the Midwest with ice and heavy snow. And before anyone could even catch their breath, Winter Storm Gianna hit from January 30th through February 1st. Together, those two storms hammered more than 40 states in just 10 days back-to-back. No break in between. Weather estimates the combined economic damage could be staggering, with some projections exceeding $100 billion. Now, that number includes indirect losses like lost productivity and supply chain disruptions. So some folks think it is a bit inflated. But even on the conservative end, Verisk puts insured losses alone at around $4 billion, and that is just the stuff that is covered. On top of all that, over 17,000 flights have been canceled since January 23rd. If you have been stuck at an airport the last 2 weeks, yeah, you already know what I'm talking about. It has been an absolute mess. And 12 federal emergency declarations have been approved. That is not something that just happens for a regular snowstorm. Folks, that tells you the scale of what we are dealing with. And honestly, a lot of people still do not realize how bad this thing got. So let me walk you through the numbers that really matter, the ones that hit you right in the gut. As of February 2nd, CBS News confirmed at least 100 people killed directly by the storms, plus dozens more in weather-related incidents. By the next day, that number had crossed 110, and it is still being updated as officials work through the backlog. People are dying from hypothermia, car crashes on black ice, snowblower accidents, skiing accidents, even heart attacks from shoveling snow. In New York City alone, 13 people were found dead outdoors from hypothermia, just lying there in the cold. In Tennessee, 23 people have died, including elderly residents found in homes where the heat had been out for days. These are not numbers on a screen. These are real people who could not get warm, and nobody got to them in time. In Mississippi, 25 people have died, hundreds of homes damaged or destroyed, farms wiped out, businesses gone. In Louisiana, 9 people are dead, 5 from hypothermia, others from carbon monoxide poisoning running generators indoors, and 1 person died because their oxygen concentrator shut off during a power outage. Think about that for a second. In Kentucky, Governor Andy Beshear confirmed 16 storm-related deaths across the state. If you are in one of these areas right now, drop your city and state in the comments. I want to hear from you. Let everybody know what it looks like on the ground where you are, because the national coverage is not telling the full story. And if there is a specific city or region you want a forecast breakdown for, tell me. I will get back to you. All right, now let us talk about the power situation, because honestly, this part makes me angry. At the peak of the storm, more than 840,000 customers lost power. That is not 840,000 people. That is 840,000 households and businesses. We are talking millions of people sitting in the dark, in freezing temperatures, with no way to stay warm. Days later, more than 500,000 customers were still without electricity, mainly across Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And now, heading into the second full week, over 70,000 homes and businesses in Tennessee and Mississippi still have no power. Let that sink in. We are in 2026, and people are going 2 weeks without electricity in the middle of a historic freeze. Nashville got hit the hardest, and what happened there is something that needs a serious conversation. Nashville Electric Service lost power to roughly half of its entire customer base. That is about 235,000 homes and businesses going dark. That is the worst outage in the utility's entire history. And the mayor, Freddie O'Connell, he did not hold back. He ordered a formal review of the utility's storm prep and response, and called the company unequipped to communicate during a crisis. When the mayor of your own city is publicly calling out the power company like that, you know something went seriously wrong. And the question everyone in Nashville should be asking is, was the system ready for this? Or did they just hope it would not happen? Over 1,000 linemen from Nashville and 7 other states have been working around the clock, and it still was not enough. Full restoration is not expected until February 9th. That is nearly 3 weeks after the first storm hit. Meanwhile, in Mississippi, nearly 300,000 customers lost power from the ice storm, and the state opened 80 warming centers across 51 counties. The National Guard deployed troops by truck and helicopter to deliver supplies and generators to the hardest hit areas. When you have got the military doing emergency supply runs in your own state, that is not a winter inconvenience. That is a disaster. Now, I want to shift gears for a second because what is happening on the roads has been absolutely wild. In North Carolina alone, more than 400 traffic accidents were reported, and several sections of interstate had to be completely shut down. Charlotte saw its heaviest snowfall in over 20 years, and a massive pileup shut down Interstate 85 near Kannapolis. Charlotte Douglas International Airport canceled over 800 flights in a single day one day. 800 flights. Gone. NCDOT deployed 2,500 workers and said some secondary roads could take up to a week just to clear. And then there is what is happening on the Outer Banks. And honestly, this part is just heartbreaking. 4 more beachfront homes in Rodanthe collapsed into the Atlantic Ocean between Sunday and Monday. That brings the total to 31 homes swallowed by the ocean since 2020, of those gone since just last September. These homes are not being damaged. They are literally disappearing into the water. And the beach in Rodanthe is completely closed off. Highway 12 is still impassable, and the people who live out there are basically cut off. Now here is the other thing: most people are sleeping on the agricultural damage, especially in Florida. This was the coldest air mass to hit South Florida since December 1989. Temperatures dropped below 24 degrees in Polk County. For those who do not know, Polk County is the state's biggest orange-producing region, responsible for about 30% of Florida's total citrus. Banana and papaya crops got hammered. Fern growers in Volusia County called it terrible timing right before Valentine's Day shipping. Orlando dropped to 24 degrees, an all-time February record, and Duke Energy had to ask customers to cut back on power usage. When the power company is literally begging you to use less electricity during a freeze, that tells you how close the whole grid was to the edge. And Florida's Agriculture Commissioner has officially requested federal assistance. That is how bad the crop damage is looking. So why is all of this happening? And why has this winter been so insanely brutal compared to the last few years? It comes down to a pattern that weather folks have been watching closely since mid-January. And it all starts way up in the atmosphere. A massive ridge of high pressure has been locked in over the western United States for weeks. That ridge is pumping mild Pacific air into the northwest. But on the flip side, it is funneling wave after wave of Arctic air straight down the eastern half. Think of the jet stream like a highway right now. There is a giant dip on the east side acting like an open lane for polar air to pour south. It is pulling freezing air all the way from Canada down to the Gulf Coast. And it has been doing it non-stop for weeks. But here's the piece that most people are not talking about. And this is the part that actually explains everything. A stratospheric warming event has been confirmed, basically. A burst of heat way up in the atmosphere disrupted the polar vortex. The polar vortex, that giant swirling mass of frigid air that normally stays bottled up over the Arctic, it is splitting apart. One lobe is sitting over Europe and Asia, and the other one is parked right over North America, just dumping cold air on us. That is why we are seeing temperatures 30 to 40 degrees below normal from the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf. New York City just went through 9 straight days at or below freezing 9 days. No break. Tampa saw snow flurries. Orlando hit 24 degrees. These are not normal winter events. These are once-in-a-generation extremes. And the scary part is, the pattern that caused all of this is not done yet, not even close. So here is your critical timeline for the next several days. And I need you to pay close attention to this part. As of Monday afternoon, February 3rd, snow is still coming down across North Dakota, and the upper Great Lakes light but steady. By Tuesday morning, if you are in northern Minnesota or Wisconsin, bundle up wind chills will be 10 to 20 below zero. Tuesday afternoon through the evening. A snow band sets up along the Ohio River Valley, Evansville, Louisville, Cincinnati, Columbus. Even parts of northern West Virginia will see accumulating snow, while rain pushes into Tennessee and the Gulf Coast. Do not let that rain fool you right behind it. Another surge of cold air is already on its way. By Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, that snow slides east into the mid-Atlantic DC, New Jersey, getting an inch or two on top of what is already there. But that is just the appetizer. The main event comes later in the week, and this is the one you really need to watch. A much stronger clipper system dives southeast out of Canada, through the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. By Friday, February 6th, gusty snow showers push into New York City, Albany, Portland, Maine, and Boston 1 to 3 inches, locally up to 4. And right behind that snow, the real Arctic front arrives, and this is where it gets serious. Saturday morning, February 7th, wind chills across eastern Ohio, West Virginia, upstate New York, and all of New England plunge to 40 below zero. By Sunday morning, those wind chills drop to 40 to 50 below across eastern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Maine. And in parts of northern New England, we could see wind chills hitting 55 degrees below zero. That is the kind of cold where exposed skin gets frostbite in under 10 minutes. That is genuinely life-threatening. Now for the West Coast. A separate storm system brings 2 to 3 feet of snow to the Sierra Nevada and the Cascades over the weekend. Seattle down through northwest California will see an inch or two of rain along the coast. Nothing crazy, but worth knowing. For the East, though, it is all about the cold. And what that cold has already done to people should be a wake-up call for everyone. If you have never lived through something like this, let me paint the picture real quick so you understand what folks are dealing with. Your power goes out, and the house gets cold fast within a few hours. You can see your own breath indoors. Pipes freeze. The thermostat drops to the 40s. And you are wearing every layer you own inside your own home. For some people, especially the elderly, the disabled, anyone who relies on electricity for medical equipment, that is where the story ends. And that is not a dramatic way to put it. We have seen it play out in real time, in real homes, in real communities. Now, in terms of this bigger picture, the models are showing a brief warm-up through the middle of February. The East Pacific Oscillation is going positive, which means a ridge builds across the lower 48 between roughly February 8th and the 15th. Temperatures will moderate. Parts of the Midwest might even get a genuine thaw for a few days. But do not get comfortable, because that break is temporary, and what comes after it could be worse. By the third week of February, cold air starts reloading across Alaska and Western Canada. And by late February into early March, a cross-polar flow could funnel that Arctic air right back into the northern and eastern United States. Another winter storm signal is already showing up in the models for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast around mid-February. And the last week of February could bring not just snow, but early season severe weather setups across the South. So yeah, this winter is not over, and the pattern supports more extreme events before spring gets here. After what this country has been through over the past 2 weeks, the real question is whether our infrastructure is ready for the next round. Are the power grids built for this? Are the emergency systems fast enough? And are our communities prepared when it happens again? Let me leave you with the big picture, because when you put all these numbers together, it hits different. Over 110 people dead across 16 states, 200 million Americans impacted, potentially billions of dollars in total damage, 17,000 flights canceled, tens of thousands of homes still without power going into week 2, 31 homes on the Outer Banks swallowed by the Atlantic since 2020, and wind chills of 40 to 55 degrees below zero are heading for the Northeast this coming weekend. You have got the full picture now. The timeline, the forecast, the human toll, and what is still on the way. So here is what I need from you. Drop your location in the comments and tell me what it looks like where you are right now. If you want a specific forecast for your city, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, Charlotte, wherever, just ask, and I will get back to you. And please, share this with anyone you know in the affected states. They need to see this stuff. If you have elderly neighbors or family members living alone, check on them tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. This is not hype. This is not clickbait. This is a historic disaster that is still unfolding in real time. I hope the worst is behind us, but honestly, based on everything the models are showing, I do not think it is. Stay safe out there. Look out for each other, and I will be back with a full update as things develop. You have the information. What you do with it is up to you.